All right,
Yes,
Eden
gum.
is clear. And Javier.
All right, we're going live.
Okay, everybody mute.
Welcome to another episode of the Caribbean Edge Kids. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and we have our kids from all over. So my name is Dawn Wilson, the host of the Caribbean Edge Kids, and we also have Aunty Sophie, our beautiful storyteller who gets to share our culture and heritage through stories with everyone, especially for all our kids and adults living abroad. And we have four amazing readers today. We have Sianne, Edan, Javier, and Olivia Grace, who is joining us from Jamaica. So Olivia just turned 4 in July, and she's going to start us off with a song. Take us away, Olivia Grace.
Okay, go ahead. Which one are you going to sing, Mama? Shan. So go ahead and start.
Climb at the garden in market, never quite what's up. Climb at the garden in market, not a quite what's up. Oh Lord, what a night, not a night, what a Saturday night. Lord, what a night, not a bite, what a Saturday night. Everybody come feel up where them woman are bring. Everybody come feel up where them woman are bring. Oh Lord, what a night, not a night, what a Saturday night. Lord, what a night, not a night, what a Saturday night.
Thank you. For those of you that don't know, that's a cultural song from when we were little kids growing up listening to that. So it's really nice to see the tradition still continue. And Olivia Grace just turned 4 in July, right, Olivia?
Yes, yes, miss.
And tell us about you, Olivia. What do you like?
I am 4 years old and I like to sing and read. I like to dance and I also like to eat some. And I also like to eat healthy food.
Wow. Beautiful. A 4-year-old that likes healthy food. We're so excited to have you. Actually, Aunty Sophie sent me a video of you reading, and I was so impressed with you at 4 years old reading. So you're definitely a shining star. And then to find out you also can sing for us. Oh my gosh. So let's switch over to Edan, who is busy over there. How are you, Edan? Tell us about you.
I'm 7 years old, and I like to do math in school, and I like to do math in school, and I even like to eat in the morning. I like to eat waffles in the morning, and
So what did you have for breakfast today? I know you love waffles.
waffles.
What did you have today?
Waffles.
Oh, okay.
I had French toast.
Toast. Okay, good. Well, thank you for joining us today. And Sianne, tell us about you. How old are you?
Hi, I'm 12 years old. I like to travel and I like to cook meals. The last meal I cooked was lobster mac and cheese. And I play tennis.
So would you say you're a good tennis player?
Yes.
Yes, lots of scholarships out there for young tennis superstars. So I hope mommy and daddy are looking into that. When my daughter was younger, we looked into tennis, and that's when I discovered lots of scholarships out there. But she turned to volleyball. So she's a volleyball player and got her scholarships there. So kids in sports, definitely an awesome thing, and it can take you places, lots of discipline to learn. So welcome to the Caribbean Edge, kids.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we have Mr. Javier, who is 12 years old as well. Hi, Javi. Tell us about you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Javier. I'm 12 years old, and I'm in the 7th grade. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and one of my favorite hobbies I like to do is basketball and soccer. I like to cook. Um, Everybody likes me for my mac and cheese and my breakfast. I make pancake, eggs, and bacon for the house, and yeah, I'm related to Edan.
How are you related to Eden?
He's my nephew.
Oh, okay. So you cook for the whole house. That's a
Yes.
good thing.
My
Wow.
mother and my brother, Edan, and me.
Oh, nice. It's nice that you're cooking. So where did you learn your cooking skills from?
I just watched people. When I watched my family members just cook, and then one day I was like, I want to help cook, and they was like, okay, sure. So they told me like what I have to do and all that stuff. So then from that day, I just loved cooking. So now I'm old enough to know how to handle the stove and all that stuff. So now, so when my mommy doesn't feel well or she's just a little tired and she's hungry, I just go to the stove and make her breakfast or something that could fill her stomach.
You are amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm going to play this episode for my son. Lots of mommies falling in love with you right now. Well, welcome to the show. And once again, another athlete, basketball and soccer. There we go. So hopefully you guys continue to shine. And we certainly appreciate you joining us on the show. So Olivia Grace, are you ready to read for us? We're going to get her off mute. There we go. What book do you have for us today?
Ark. All right, go for the Once, long ago, there was a good man named Noah. One day, God decided to punish all the people because they were bad. He asked Noah for his help. God had a plan. He told Noah to build a ship called an ark. Find 2 animals of a very kind and bring them aboard the ship. So they could be saved too. Soon after the ark was built, it began to rain. The land was flooded. Everything was swallowed. Only Noah's ark was saved as it floated on the water. Finally, God stopped the rain. The land dried up some way. The Noah's ark rests high on top of a mountain. His family and all the animals left the ark. They were so happy to dance. What's happiness for being saved?
For being saved.
For being saved.
That's the end of the story?
Yes.
So say it again.
The end.
Thank you, Olivia Grace. Can we see your book? Can we show the little kids your book? There we go. Thank you for reading. And at 4 years old, you just turned 4. You are a superstar. You're amazing. And you are not shy at all. So thank you for joining the Caribbean Edge Kids family. Let's see what else we have in store for you today. So we're going to thank you for reading. Aunty Sophie, 4 years old.
You know, as usual, how excited I am to hear the kids. What a precious sweetheart. Thank you for sharing that story. Now we know the story of Noah and the ark. Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. So, Eden, what story do you have for us today? Let's see your book and the author.
My story is called Cinco de Mayo by Linda Laurie. This book is kind of hard.
It's a hard book. Yeah. Do you want to pick another one?
It's not really a book. It's an app where like I could read.
Oh, okay. So you're online. I think Javier came over to help you.
Yes. How did you help me, please?
Oh, there we go. Cinco de Mayo. Nice.
Okay. Piñatas packed with candy, fireworks dancing in the streets. ¿Qué pasa? What's going on? It's Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo is the 5th day of May. It is a It is a fiesta day in the United States and Mexico. One fiesta day everyone celebrates. Cinco de Mayo is when people remember an amazing battle that took place more than 100 years ago. The story Cinco de Mayo is a story of courage. It is a story of Mexican soldiers who changed history by beating the strongest army on earth. It is a story of the people of Mexico and the United States.
Is that the end?
No, and the United States working together. Mexico was tired of war for hundreds of years. Spain had ruled Mexico. Many Mexico people had lost their lives fighting to get rid of the Spanish. The Spanish left in 1821. In the 1840s, a new war broke out between Mexico and the United States. Mexico lost half its land. Now, in the 1861, the Mexican people were finally free. They had a president who was Mexican. He came from the tribute of Indians called the Zap. The Zap.
You want to spell it for us?
Zapotecs.
Sounds like Zapotecs.
Zapotecs is the name who was Bento Juras. Bento was the first Indian to become the president of Mexico. He had grown up poor. He was an orphan. He worked as a shepherd for one of his uncles. Bento studied hard. He went to college and became a lawyer. In 1861, Bento Juarez became the president of Mexico. He proved that even a poor shepherd could become educated and grow up to lead his country. Benito hoped that Mexico and the United States could become friends. He began writing letters to the presidents of the United States. Abraham Lincoln was president of the United States. He was happy to hear from Bento Juarez. Abe and Bento were very similar. Abe had also been born poor. He grew up in a log cabin. He studied hard and became a lawyer. Now Abe was leading his country and he had a war to deal with it. The states in the north were fighting the states in the south. This war was called the Civil War. Abe Lincoln was worried. He knew that the the Emperor of France were think were thinking about sending soldiers and weapons to help the South.
It's a little harder on the tablet, isn't it, than the actual book? You're doing well. You're doing well.
With this help, the South would probably win the Civil War. The United States would be two countries instead of one.
The end? Thank you for that. I know it's harder on the tablet, but you managed to pull through. Edan, you're a great reader. 7 years old, right? Yes. When are you going to be 8?
Uh-huh.
When will you be 8?
June 11th.
Oh, June 11th. Well, thank you for reading because you're inspiring other young boys.
I turned 7 June 11. I turned 7 in June 11.
Good. And Javi, I know you went over to help him, so thank you for that. It just shows the great personality you are. And Edan, you wanted to say something else, sweetie?
Yes, and then I turned 7 this year, last June. This year and this June.
Well, we're glad to have you on the show. And thank you again, Javi, for helping him out. Sianne, what book do you have for us today?
Sianne Can Change the World. It's an inspirational book for others. And our world is a big spinning planet of blue. It has 7 billion people, but only one you. Sometimes you might feel just so tiny and small. Don't forget you're unique and that you can stand tall. You have the power each day when you wake up to make our world better with the choices you make. Start out really simple and show us your smile. It gets passed to each person from mile to mile. The next things to try are some acts that are kind. So pick out some people, I'm sure they won't mind. Surprise them with something that comes from your heart. If you're out of ideas, try these for a start. Give a hug, hold a hand. Against the bully, take a stand. Pick up trash, help with chores, clean your room, sweep the floors, walk a dog, make a card, bake some cookies, rake a yard. Water flowers, plant a tree, love the earth for you and me. Earn a dollar, donate food, put some put someone in a good mood. Write a note, thank some friends, show that your kindness never ends. Sianne, the way that you act and the words that you say can change the world in a positive way. When you do good things for others and give it to your give it your best, it spreads all around north, south, east, and west. Change can start with one person. That person is you. So go out, make a change, and see what you can do. The end.
Awesome. And we need that message today, Science. I'm so glad you picked that book because change does start with each of us, right?
Yes.
And by changing ourselves, we are changing the world. And I see it also mentioned something Hattie talked about, which is helping around the house, raking the lawn, and cooking and everything else. So thank you for that inspirational book and for reading to young girls and boys today. And we're going to switch over to Javi, who's patiently waiting.
Okay, so the book, excuse me, the book I'll be reading today is called Number the Stars. Unfortunately, I can't read the whole book because it's a little long, but I'm going to be reading one of the paragraphs. And I mean, not one of the paragraphs, one of the chapters. And the name of the chapter is called Why Are You Running? I'll race you to the corner, Eileen. Anne-Marie adjusted the thick leather pack on her back so her school books balanced evenly. Ready? She looked at her best friend. Eileen made a face. No, she said, laughing. You know I can't beat you. My legs aren't as long. Can't we just walk like civilized people? She was stockily 10 years old, unlike Langley and Marie. We have to practice for the athlete meet on Friday. I know I'm going to win the girls' race this week. I was second last week, but I've been practicing every day. Come on, Amarine pleaded, eyes in the distance of the next corner of Corpin Haight Street. Please? Eileen hesitated, the nod, and shifted her own rucksack of books against her shoulders. Oh, all right, ready? She said. Go! Shouted Emery. And the two girls were racing along the residential sidewalk. Emery's silver blonde hair flew behind her, and Ellie's dark pigtails bounced against her shoulders. Wait for me, wailed little Christy, left behind, but the two older girls weren't listening. Emery outdistanced her friend quickly, even though one of her shoes became untied as she sped along the street over Oster Broadgate, past the small shops and cafes of her neighborhood in the northeast Copedge. Laughing, she skirted an older lady in black who carried shopping bags made of string. A young woman pushing a baby in a carriage moved aside to make a way. The corner was just ahead. Emery looked up, hinting just as she reached the corner. Her laughter stopped. Her heart started to skip a beat. Hail T! The soldier ordered in a stern voice. The German word was as familiar as it frightening. Emery had heard it often before, but it had never been directed at her until now. Behind her, Aline as slowed and stopped. Far back, little Christy was paddling along, her face pouting because the girls hadn't waited for her. Emery stared up. There were two of them. That meant two helmets, two sets of cold eyes glaring at her, four shiny boots planted firmly on the sidewalk, blocking her path to home. And it meant two rifles gripped in the hand of a soldier. She stared at the rifles first, then finally she looked up into the face of the searchers who had ordered her to halt. Why are you running? The harsh voice asked. His Danish was very poor. 3 years, Emery thought with content. 3 years they've been in our country and they still can't even speak our language. I was racing my friend, she answered politely. We have races at school every Friday, and I wanted to do well, so her voice trailed away, the sentence unfinished. Don't talk so much, she told herself. Just answer them, that's all. She glanced back at Eileen with her monotonous on the sidewalk, a few yards behind her. Farther back, Christy was still slugging with walking slowly towards the corner. Nearby, a woman had came to the doorway of the shop, standing silently watching. One of the soldiers, the taller one, moved towards her. Emery recognized him as one and Eileen have she and Eileen always called in whispers the giraffe because of his height and his long neck that extended from his stiff collar. He and his partner were always on this corner. He prodied the corner of her backpack with the stock of rifles. Emery trembled. What is in here? He asked loudly. From the corner of her eye, she saw the shopkeeper move quietly back into the shadows of the doorway, out of sight. School books, she answered truthfully. Are you a good student? The soldier asked. He seemed to be sneering. Yes. What is your name? Emery Johnson. Your friend is a good student too? He was looking beyond her. Eileen hadn't moved. Emery looked back to Emery looked back too and saw Eileen's face, usually rose-cheeked and pale and dark eyes wide. She nodded at the soldier. Better than me, she said. What's her name? Eileen. And who is this? He asked, looking at Emery's side. Christy had appeared there suddenly, scowling at everyone. My little sister. She reached down for Christine's hand, but Christy, always stubborn, refused it and put her hands on her hips, definitely. The soldier reached down and stroked her little sister's short, tangly curls. Stand still. Christy Emery ordered silently, praying that somehow the a obedient 5-year-old would receive the message, but Christy reached up and pushed the soldier hand away. Don't, she said loudly. Both soldiers began to laugh. They spoke each other in another rapid German that Anne-Marie couldn't understand. She is pretty, like my own little girl, the tall one said in one more pleasant voice. Go home, all of you. Go to your school books and don't run. You look like hoodlums when you run. The two soldiers turned away. Quickly, Anne-Marie reached down again and grabbed her sister's hand before Christy could resist. Hurrying the little girl along, she rounded the corner. In a moment, Eileen was beside her. They walked quickly, not speaking, with Christy between them towards the large apartment building where both of their families lived. When they were almost home, Eileen whispered, I was so scared. Me too, Emery whispered back. As they turned to enter the building, both girls looked straight ahead towards the door. They did it purposely so that they would not catch their eyes or attention with two more soldiers who stood with their guns on this corner as well. Christy secured ahead of them through the door, chattering about the pictures she was bringing home from kindergarten to show Mama. For Christy, the soldiers were simply part of the landscape, something that had always been there on every corner, as unimportant as lamposters throughout her remembered life. Are you going to tell your mother? Aline asked. Anne-Marie, as they shrugged together up the stairs. I'm not. My mother would be really upset. No, I won't either. Mama would probably scold me for running on the street. She said goodbye to Eileen on the second floor where Eileen lived and continued to the third floor, practicing her mind cheerfully to greet her mother, a small description of today's spelling test in which she had done very well. The end.
The end. Thank you for that, Javier. You're another excellent reader. You're just an all-around good young man.
Thank you.
Your parents must be so proud of you. Why did you like that story? Why did you pick that story today?
I like that story because when I had actually finished the book already, and as I went through the book, it was just about how I don't want to spoil it, but I guess I'm gonna have to. When I was reading throughout the story, it was just telling us how one of the girls in here wasn't supposed to be in that part of the country or state. So when they had got stopped by the soldiers on the first time, we didn't really catch on what had happened. But as you go out through the story, you realize why they were so scared when they met the two soldiers. So, and I liked it because it was just like, this is what other people had to go through back in those times. And now it's not really as bad as it was back then. But it to me, it's just like something that I can carry on in life. So I know, like, if I see something like this or what to do, just be respectful, don't be rude. Just be very respectful to everyone because you may never know.
Oh my, you are awesome.
Thank you.
And you have your little nephew Eden to follow in your footsteps. So you're certainly a blessing and you're setting the example for many kids. So thank you so much for reading for us today. And a lot of people are watching and they're saying, wow, thank you guys for having this show. Thanks for all the kids. Dr. Francis says, thanks for sharing these wonderful kids and their stories again. The young man's story before is awesome. Yes, young man cook for young men cook, and 4-year-old Olivia was delightful and cheerful. Love. And all the way from Turks and Caicos, Errol says, so excited to see the kids displaying their talents. My appreciation goes out to them and their parents. And Mr. Desmond Watson says, thank you for the wonderful presentation this afternoon with these amazing kids. It's very interesting. As always, these kids are very impressive. And I must say, Carrie says, this is such a great way to get our children involved. And Miss Juanita Edwards says they're watching Olivia Grace, the grandparents. Great show, good program for kids, and good job, Olivia Grace. So thank you very much. We are going to switch over to Aunty Sophie to see what she picked out for us today. So kids, you're in for a special treat.
Well, hello, everyone. What a pleasure to sit back and be entertained by reading children. Who knew? Who knew I would be here today to be witnessing these lovely kids reading? Amazing. Thank you, viewers. And of course, to our little ones who are not aware about our culture, I'm going to be reading a story that has been passed down to us from generation to generation. I read about Anansi. Now, I realize on the panel we have maybe one little Jamaican, Olivia Grace. She may have heard about Anansi. Sianne, I'm not sure she may have heard, or Edan or Javier, but they're going to learn today about my Anansi, which is a folklore creature that we have learned about in Jamaica and across the Caribbean. So Anansi stories originated in West Africa. They were brought to Jamaica and other parts of the New World by Ashanti slaves. And they were handed down orally through generations. As I said, over the years, the stories have been told. And of course, the Anansi creature that we're going to read about exists as a spider. That's what the other word is for spider. We call them Anansi. He's a Anansi, a spider, or a man, or a combination of both. So over the years, the stories have combined the two characters, Anansi as a man or Anansi as a spider. Anansi now is no goody two shoes. He's not as kind as some of the characters we read about, where Sianne talked to us about trying to be kind, right, Sianne? Anansi sometimes is no goody two shoes. He's a greedy person based on the stories we've learned. He's lazy, inventive. He's a trickster, and he's cunning and smart to the extreme. Now, Anansi loves a good joke, and when he's not sleeping, he's always up to something. Let's find out what Anansi is up to today. And let's possibly find out why Anansi stories were named Anansi stories. Here we go. This one is entitled Anansi and the Snake. Now, Tiger was the undisputed king of the forest. Tiger lilies were named after him. Tiger moths were named after him. And the stories of the forest were called tiger stories. Anansi at that time was a nobody in the forest hierarchy. When the animals gathered together, they would ask idle questions like, who is the strongest animal? Or who is the bravest? All together they would chorus, Tiger! And just to poke fun, they would say, who is the weakest? Like a church choir, they would all sing out, Anansi! Anansi got sick and tired of it all. One day he met Tiger face to face in the forest. Anansi bowed low to Tiger, but Tiger did not acknowledge Anansi in the least. He had no time to waste on such an insignificant speck. Tiger, said Anansi, you have it all. Can you just ease me up and let me have one thing named after me? Tiger wanted to ignore Anansi, but his curiosity got the better of him. And just what is it you want to bear your name, Anansi? The stories, replied Anansi. I want them to be called Anansi stories. Now, Tiger loved those stories and did not intend to give them up to this crawling nobody. Still, even the undisputed king of the forest needed a laugh sometimes. So he said to Anansi, if you can do one small thing for me, I will let you call the stories Anansi stories, or any other name you like. Anansi didn't like the sound of this. What one thing would you want me, Tiger, to name? He asked curiously. Nothing too hard. Just capture Snake for me by the end of the week, and all the stories will be known as Anansi stories forevermore. Good thing Anansi had 8 legs to stand on, because at least 4 of them buckled at the same time. This snake was not your flimsy garden variety snake. Snake of the jungle was big, very big, and Anansi was small, very small. But Anansi could think big, so he said, I'll do it. At that, there was a huge burst of laughter from all the other animals who had seen and they've heard by eavesdropping on the conversation. They went home, tears of amusement rolling down their faces. They were laughing so hard. And Nancy went home, very worried, but thinking. And Nancy was thinking. This was Monday. Next day, Anansi went on the trail he knew Snake traveled on every day. He made a large noose out of a strong vine and placed some of Snake's favorite berries inside it. He hid in the bushes, holding the other end of the vine. Snake came slithering along the path. He spied the berries and his mouth watered, but he also spied the noose. He lay the weight of his body on the vine, then reached in and ate the berries quickly. Anansi tried and tried, but he could not pull the vine to close the noose. Snake's body was too heavy. Next day, Anansi went a little further down Snake's favorite trail and dug a pit in the ground. He placed a luscious hand of ripe bananas in it, then smeared the sides of the pit with grease so that Snake would slip in when he tried to get the bananas. Snake came along the path. He spied the bananas and his mouth watered. But he also spied the grease. So he wrapped his tail around the thick tree trunk, then reached into the hole with his head and ate the bananas. He had his lips. They were so good he licked them. He raised his head out of the pit, unwrapped his tail, and slithered away. Next day, Anansi made a square trap of sticks with spaces on 3 sides and the door on another. He put some mongoose inside. Now we know Snake likes mongoose. Soon a piglet came along and went straight for the mongoose. The mangoes, beg your pardon. He didn't notice when Anansi shut the door behind him. Anansi figured that Snake could get inside the trap through the spaces, but he would be too fat to get out after he had eaten the piglet. Snake came along and saw the piglet. The creature was so terrified when he saw Snake that he went berserk, squealing at the top of his lungs and smashing the trap into pieces. The piglet fled into the bushes, and Snake's mouth did not even get a chance to water. Anansi muttered to himself, "Fool, good for nothing pig." Next day, it was Friday, the end of the week, and Anansi was still snakeless. He went directly to Snake's house and sat outside looking dejected. Snake came out and looked at Anansi in surprise. "But you're brighty. All week long you're trying to catch me, and now you're sitting here barefaced in my yard?" Anansi looked at Snake and sighed. "Yes, it's true, but I was trying to catch you for a worthy cause. Now the other animals will continue to talk behind your back." "What you talking about, Anansi? What they saying about me?" Anansi said, "Well, I really shouldn't be telling you, but they're saying that you believe you are the longest thing around and that you think you are God's gift to the longness, but when the shortest bamboo around here. Let us see what really will happen. And Nancy was really trying to pull a fast one. Snake was outraged. Measure me, Anansi! Measure me! Cut down the longest bamboo you can find and let me shut up those backbiters. Anansi ran and cut down the longest bamboo. He rested it on the ground and Snake stretched out beside it. Call them, Anansi. Let them see that nothing around here can test me. Anansi stretched and scratched his chin. Well, Snake, there's a problem. You look longer than the bamboo, but now, how do I know that when I go up by your head, you're not crawling up to look longer, and when I go down by your tail, you're not shifting down on that end? Tie my tail, Anansi, tie my tail, if you don't believe me, said Snake. By this time, curious animals were gathering around to watch. Anansi tied Snake's tail tightly to the bamboo with some vines. Then he said to Snake, stretch, Snake, stretch. You're almost there. Stretch till your eyes are shut and you can't stretch no more. Anansi had never seen a snake sweat. Snake stretched. He stretched till his eyes were squeezed shut. And in a flash, Anansi tied his head to the pole, then his middle. The animals who had been watching were silent. There was no laughing at Anansi this time. He had said he would capture Snake, and he did. And from that day to this day, the stories have been called Anansi stories. Jack Mandora, me no choose none, the end. And so we know it, Anansi won the day. Thank you. So now we know about Anansi the trickster, and you'll know more about Anansi. Ask Mommy and ask Daddy to do some research about Anansi stories, as we have passed them on over the years in our culture in the Jamaican storytelling group. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Sophie, for that cultural experience. I'm going to switch over to Olivia Grace, who is patiently waiting for 4 years old. Hi, Olivia. I think Mommy has to unmute you. Olivia, have Mommy unmute you. There you go. So how is it? Do you know about Anansi stories?
Yes, miss.
Okay, so you're standing. Are you doing something special for us right now?
Yes, miss.
What are you doing for us?
I'm dancing.
You're dancing? I did not know that. Wow. What are you dancing to right now? Okay, our 4-year-old is getting ready for us.
Sing.
You're singing. All right. Take us away, Olivia Grace.
Carry me out to garden to the market, not a quantity whatsoever. Carry me out to garden to the market, not a quantity whatsoever. Oh Lord, what a night, not a bite, what a Saturday night. Lord, what a night, not a bite, what a Saturday night. Everybody come feel up what a movement I bring. Everybody come feel up what a moment I bring. Oh Lord, what a night, not a bite, what a Saturday night. Lord, what a night, not a bite, what a Saturday night.
Yes. Thank you, Olivia Grace. You are not shy at all, and you are amazing 4-year-old. So we want to take the time to talk about some little patois with you guys. So one of the things Olivia just said was, where the muma no bring. Anybody else know what that means? Where them mama no bring? Any idea? Teaching you a little Jamaican right now.
What a woman no bring?
Where them mama no bring? You know what mama means?
A woman?
Yeah, your mother. So where them mama no bring what their mother didn't bring. So everybody came to feel up meaning touch. So you went to the market and everybody come touch up the stuff and their mother didn't bring it. So it's just our broken English, our dialect, and we say, carry aki go a Linstead market, not a quati would sell, and then you say, everybody come feel up what their mother didn't bring. So something I picked up on what Sianne said earlier was, which her book was about changing the world. So one of the things you all are doing is you're gonna change the world. So that's how Jamaicans would say we're changing the world. We're gonna change the world. So Sianne, your turn. We're gonna change the world.
But I changed the world.
We are gonna change the world.
We gonna change the world.
Yeah, man, we're gonna change the world. So with a lot of us, we have a lot of expressions and attitude, and we say things with our Jamaican dialect. So we're gonna change the world, and that's what you kids are doing by reading. You're changing the world and adding value to it. So any words you can think of, Aunty Sophie, from today?
I just want to, well, just back to Miss Olivia Grace's song, Carry Me Aki Go a Linstead Market, means she's taking her wares to the market. And aki is a fruit that it's a food, and of course you're aware of that. It's grown in Jamaica primarily, a number of the other Caribbean islands.
You
but
can
in
eat it with saltfish.
Yes, who is saying that? Let me see. So, is that the chef talking to me about preparing ackee and saltfish? So I would imagine he has some kind of family background in. There you go. So his mother is from Jamaica, so he'll know very much about ackee, which is a national dish. Ackee and saltfish we prepare in Jamaica as our national dish. So Miss Olivia Grace was carrying the ackee to the market to sell it. So carry me ackee means my ackee to market. And of course, when Auntie Dawn was explaining about where your mama no bring, it means it's not yours to touch. Normally, you are able to touch what your mother provides because that's yours. But where your mama no bring, your mother did not bring it, is not yours to touch, unless, of course, you're going to buy. You see that, Sianne? So, Sianne, do you have any family member from any part of the Caribbean?
Both of my parents. My mom is from Jamaica and my dad is from Turks and Caicos and Bahamas.
So you Caribbean background. So your parents will very much be aware of what we're talking about. So our dialect, the Patois, is a dialect which is a combination of different languages that we have in our country. You'll hear some English words, you'll hear some Spanish phrases, you'll hear some African terminology. So the beautiful blend is what we called our Patois, which is our dialect. And of course, Miss Olivia Grace knows all about it because she's living in Jamaica. Right, Miss Olivia Grace? Yes, so she knows the patois words. So I am again proud of Ala Uno. It means I am very, very happy to have you and proud, feel very good for all our readers today. Tankuno for sharing means thanks, right? Back to you, Auntie Dawn.
Absolutely. So the picnic them read real good. So you have Caribbean heritage on here. So one of the things is, you know, when you're growing up overseas, as we would say, or in America, or around the world, it's very good that now that you've been on this show, you can ask your parents the questions. You've learned about Anansi the trickster. You could get that book on Amazon as well and ask, you know, start learning the language, YouTube, and learn some things. I think Olivia Grace is raising her hand to say something to us.
Auntie, can I please read again, please?
Sure. We're going to close off with Olivia Grace, who wants to read again. She's not shy. She's 4 years old. She sung twice for us and wants to read again. Take us away, Olivia Grace.
Tex was a big man. Tex had a big hat. Max was a cat. Max was in the big hat. Rex was a big dog. Rex sat on the hat. Rex sat on the mat. Rex sat on Max. Get off, Rex. Max was mad at Rex. Tex was mad at Rex. Rex got up. Okay, Max was okay. Rex was okay. Tex was okay. The end.
Ah, Auntie Dawn.
Thanks again, Olivia Grace. You're definitely a delight to have on the show, and we will certainly have each of you back on the show because you're all amazing. So I'm going to go to each one, and you can say any parting words that you would like for today for the viewers. So let's start with Miss Sianne. Nice to have you, Sianne.
Thank you for having me.
Anything you want to say to your friends, your parents?
Oh, not really.
No problem. Quite a pleasure having you today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. How about you, Eden? Busy fidgeting away over there. Anything you'd like to say to your viewers today?
I would like to say thank you for doing this because some of my family members are Jamaican.
Oh, nice. Well, we're so glad. We're so glad that you're happy and that you're here and that your Jamaican family will get to tune in and see you and all your friends from school as well. So thank you for reading for us today. And Javi?
I would just like to say a few words. I'd just like to thank you guys for having this because, you know, you guys are sharing this with other kids. The other kids get to see the importance in reading and then, you know, teaching other kids other things that some things they might not know. Like, you know, about the what's the spider thing that we was just reading about.
Anansi.
I didn't know about the Nancy. Yeah, I didn't know about that until she read it to me. So I'm like, oh, I learned something new today. So I'd like to thank you guys. Thank you guys and thank Sianne and Olivia and Edan for tuning in so we can learn new stuff from each other. Teach a friend, teach a friend. Yeah.
Oh my God. Auntie Dawn, Auntie Dawn, can I adopt that young man? I'm gonna take Javier. I listen. We need another program. I can't. This is amazing. What an awesome young man, and all the kids are absolutely awesome. I want to pause and say thank you to the parents. You're doing a great job just to get these kids away from their electronic devices to sit right now and to read. I am blown away. Thank you, and I am too emotional at this point. But again, Javier, you are going to be an awesome young man. Keep on the path that you're. He wrapped up the show for us, Auntie Dawn. He did it. He wrapped up exactly. I want to thank Edan, Olivia Grace, Sianne, Javier. We learned history. We learned something. It's amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless you all. And thanks, parents.
Taking him too. You are doing us all proud. You're an example to follow for other young boys and girls. So we can't thank you enough because you're so well-rounded, so well-spoken, and you have a very important message for everyone out there, including yourself. So thank you for being a stand-up young man. And we appreciate you. Olivia Grace, our 4-year-old from Jamaica. Anything you want to say to the viewers who tuned in to see you sing and dance and sing and read for us today? You got to say bye, Olivia Grace.
You asked me a question.
Anything you want to say? You want to say bye?
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in from Jamaica, and thank you so much, Mommy, for getting ready and having her ready for us to sing and read for us. Such a delight, 4 years old. Thank you to all the viewers that tuned into the Caribbean Edge today. And as Javi said, our culture and our heritage is so important that we are teaching each other every single day. So walk good, one love, Irie, and have a beautiful week.
Walk good.
Walk good.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.